Yes, how are we all? I hope all is well. My name is Sachin, and this is the Total Cricket Podcast, Episode 8. We've got an action filled podcast today, some big news to talk about, but first I'm going to review the first Test match between England and South Africa, a very intriguing game. I'll start off by recapping what happened in the game before diving into some analysis. So, England decided to bat first at Lords, as you do, and they were 4 down at lunch with Alistair Cook, Keaton Jennings, Gary Ballance, and Johnny Bairstow all perishing. Vernon Philander, the chief destroyer. But then it was Joe Root, the saviour, on debut as captain, combining with Ben Stokes and Moeen Ali, who both got 50s in 100-plus run stands to steady the ship and put England in an excellent position. And then Stuart Broad really rubbing salt into the wound at the end with his first Test 50 for 4 years after getting hit in the helmet by Dwayne Bravo. He openly admitted that he was almost scared of batting, but it's nice to see him now get some runs again. His 11th Test 50, and that really rubs salt in because 450, you're not going to lose too many tests there. If South Africa had kept England to 350, it might have been a different game. South Africa didn't help their cause in this one. They dropped Joe Root a couple of times. They snagged him off a no ball a couple of times. And in general, Morne Morkul, Kagiso Rabada weren't quite at their best. Vernon Philander was excellent though. Keshav Maharaj on the flat day one Lord's pitch really struggled to do the job that he has done so well, containing, and that really caused a lot of problems for South Africa. 458th over England, an excellent score. And South Africa had a reasonable enough reply, but they just didn't have the big score. That was the big difference. Their top score in this innings was 59. It started off with Heino Kuhn, the debutant, going very cheaply to Stuart Broad, but then Dean Elgar and Hashim Amla did knuckle down for a bit before Amla perished once again, not doing great things there. Amla away from home. In fact, in his last 13 away Test matches, he averages 21.1. That is very poor, and clearly he's becoming a bit of a liability away from South Africa. And then we saw once again JB Duminy failing. His Test career may be coming to an end. Temba Bavuma, though, did provide some resistance, as he seems to do always. Gets a lot of tough runs, does Temba Bavuma, but needs to convert more of his 50s into hundreds now. Dennis de Bruin also did a good job chipping in with 48. And the tail really did wag in this one. Kagiso Rabada, the night watchman, getting 27. And then Quinton de Kock, 51 off 37, blazing away. At number 80 came in this innings. Incredible stuff. Classic counter-attack from Quinton de Kock. And Vernon Philander, again, as he does, chipping in with some runs. He got a 50 as well for England. James Anderson and Stuart Broad doing the business, getting a couple of wickets each. Liam Dawson, as was Maharaj in the first innings, a bit expensive, but he did get a few of the tail-enders out. And Moeen Ali, really, the chief destroyer with a four-for, getting the job done on day three. The ball really started to take some turn. This pitch was not a typical Lord's pitch. By day three, it was really spinning. And as we know, when it's offering that kind of assistance, off spinners usually really make hay. We've seen in Test matches recently who were the best bowlers. Ranganahara, Ravindra Jadeja, Ravichandran Ashwin. They're all off spinners because they're often playing on pitches that assist the spinners, particularly at home in tests. You don't get those types of pitches in ODIs, but in test matches, certainly off spinners are always in for a shout because you get so many pitches that do help these spinners. But in the end, South Africa conceding a big lead, 98, England would certainly have been very happy with that at that point in the game. And their second innings started off very well. They had to really rally and really grind it out on the end of the third day. Alistair Cook, Keaton Jennings, and Gary Ballance doing a good job to keep South Africa at bay. But then early on the fourth day, there was a huge collapse. They lost 7 for 63 in the first session on day 4. And wow, it was an absolute demolition job by the fast bowlers and also Keshav Maharaj. Vernon Philander had got a little bit of a bruise, I think, on his right hand while he was batting, so he only bowled a little bit. But it was Morne Morkel and Kagiso Rabada who bowled a lot better than they did in the first innings, picking up 3 wickets apiece. and Keshav Mara doing what he was unable to do in the first innings, bowl economically, and he also picked up wickets. Now that the pitch had changed for the spinner, he certainly cashed in after bowling on a very flat pitch on the opening day. And it was really Jonny Bairstow that got England up to 233 and meant that South Africa had to chase 331. It could have been only maybe 280. Jonny Bairstow was dropped on 7 in the outfield by Vernon Philander once again. Fielding costing South Africa, which you don't usually associate with South Africa, bad fielding, but unfortunately in this game it did. Mark Wood provided some good assistance for Jonny Bairstow in that partnership as well. They got, I believe it was 45 between them for the 9th wicket. Crucial runs for England, and South Africa was set a very daunting task of 331, and they got absolutely blown out of the water. I did not expect it to happen so quickly. Yes, the pitch was becoming a nightmare to play the spin on, and the spinners certainly cashed in this one. Moeen Ali 6 for, and Liam Dawson picking up a couple of wickets. Amazingly for England in this match, 14 wickets from spinners at home for England. That is very, very unusual for them. Such was the nature of the Lord's pitch on the last few days, and England completed a crushing win inside 4 days. They won by 211 runs and take a 1-0 series lead. And South Africa, the momentum is really against them. It's going to be hard to see how this goes for them. The good news is that Faf du Plessis is back for the next game for them. But just a few points on South Africa. The first one is their batting lineup is looking very frail. I have a look at it. Dean Elgar is 30 years old. Heino Kuhn, 33. Hashim Amla, 32. JP Duminy, 33. Faf du Plessis, the captain to come back into the team in the second test, is 32. That is an old top order, a very old top order. Hashim Amla is struggling a lot away from home now. Heino Kuhn has an indefinite debut. JP Duminy has been very poor for a while. He averages 33 in Test cricket, having played 40-odd Test matches. You would have thought by now he would have picked that up. But South Africa's top order has struggled. How often have we seen in the recent past that the middle order has bailed them out? I remember Themba Bavuma and Quinton de Kock bailing them out at Hobart and Perth against Australia. That top order has struggled for a long time. Even against Sri Lanka, it struggled. And that is certainly saying something. Where is the future of the South African batting? I think that now they must be looking at it and think, I wish we played Aiden Markram because he's young, he's 22, opener, and he could potentially be the future. South Africa's batting lineup is very young. They need to try and get 1 or 2 young guys in, surely, because things could get ugly quick. I don't know where the next generation of South African batsmen is coming from, but they need to find some quickly, because as it is, the batting is not particularly strong, and they're all getting old. They're not getting any younger, apart from obviously Themba Bavuma, Dennis de Bruin, and Quinton de Kock. They're all 27 or younger, but the rest are really all 30 or above. The wrong side of 30. So that's a big thing for South Africa to look at. Looking at the batting, surely JP Duminy has to go now. He has been poor for a long time, with a few great performances to remind us of his potential scattered around. He's just not pulling his weight at a crucial position in number 4. I expect Faf du Plessis to come back into the team at number 4, replacing JP Duminy. Dennis de Bruin did enough in the first innings, I think, to keep his spot. But then Heino Kuhn, what do you do with him? How many tests do you give him? It's a real problem for South Africa to juggle that. It's going to be very, very intriguing to see how they juggle the Heino Kuhn situation, because Aiden Markram has stayed on with the tour squad. He was supposed to go home after Faf was back, but he stayed on, so that is a sign that he may come into contention. There isn't the faith in Kuhn that you necessarily thought they would have had. So I think we'll have to watch this space on the South African batting lineup. Problems for them. And the other thing for South Africa from this test match is undoubtedly, everyone's been talking about it, the Kagiso Rabada suspension. Kagiso Rabada picked up 1 demerit point to add on to the 3 demerit points he picked up this summer, which means he is now suspended for the second test match, and South Africa lose one of their best bowlers, and he is going to be very, very difficult to replace for South Africa. Now, this was very interesting. I think what happened followed a trend that we have been seeing for a while now. Kagiso Rabada basically said to Ben Stokes to F off, and the stump cam picked it up very clearly. That was pretty funny, I must say, to hear that in live time, something you do not expect to hear. Always interesting to hear little tidbits from the stump mic, but this one, certainly the broadcasters did not find it amusing, but Kaiser Rabada picking up that demerit point on the back of this, and now he's suspended. Now, I want to just read you through a few articles that I've seen, and I want you to try and spot the difference between these two groups. So I'm going to start off with Mitchell Starc, Ben Stokes, and Virat Kohli. So I'm going to give you some articles involving them first. So let's have a look at this. Mitchell Starc has been fined nearly $8,000 by the ICC for his wild throw at a New Zealand tailender. That guy was Mark Craig. Let's have a look at this one. Mitchell Starc was fined 50% off his match fee for that throw. And let's see what else we have. Ben Stokes. Now, let's have a look at that. Ben Stokes has been reprimanded by the ICC after an altercation with Virat Kohli for using abusive language. Ben Stokes fined 15% of his match fee for row with Sabir Rahman. And now let's look at Kohli. Kohli has been fined 30% of his match fee for showing dissent to an umpire's decision in the game between India and Pakistan. So those three, group them together. Now let's have a look at some other guys. I'm going to look at Niroshan Dickwella and Kaiser Rabada together. Let's have a look. Niroshan Dickwella of Sri Lanka has been fined 30% of his match fee and received 2 demerit points for breaching the ICC Code of Conduct. Proteas bowler Kaiser Rabada and Sri Lanka's Niroshan Dickwella have been fined 50% of their match fee after the 4th ODI, and both given 3 demerit points. Now let's look at Kaiser Rabada. Kaiser Rabada was fined 15% of his match fee and handed 1 demerit point for his send-off against Ben Stokes. Now, think about those two groups. What was the difference between the two? Did you get it? Yes, I think it was pretty obvious. It was the fact that Kohli, Starc, and Stokes were only fined or reprimanded. And reprimand is just a slap on the wrist. It's the biggest cop-out. They are not doing anything by reprimanding you. It is a really hollow punishment. Dickwella and Rabada, they were not only fined, but also handed demerit points. So I see a pattern that has emerged for a long time now, and is that the teams that are part of the big three, as it were, India, Australia, and England, players from those teams, they do not receive demerit points, and subsequently they do not get suspended. Whereas teams from other nations, they not only receive fines, they receive suspensions, demerit points, which lead to suspensions. There is a clear difference, and you might be thinking, oh, let's have some context. Well, I'll give you some context. In the recent Australia versus India Test series, we saw a lot of things going on, and there was absolutely no fines given during that Test series, no demerit points. That is a bit fishy. I'll go through some of the incidents here. Steve Smith looked to the dressing room very clearly to ask whether he should review the LBW when he was given out. That is so clearly against the ICC Code of Conduct. Let's have a look at another one. Mitchell Starc. Remember when he got Karun Nair out and he told him to F off numerous times? And if we all know, I know it didn't get picked up in the stump mic, but we saw both Indian and Australian players saying that to numerous batsmen who were out. It was so easy to lip read. It's not a difficult phrase to lip read. And yet, nothing ever happened to them. And don't forget the reaction of the Indian players when they got Glenn Maxwell out in the 3rd Test. The send-off they gave him. Nothing for that. I find it very interesting how these things work. Anyone want to look at the Kaiser Rabada, Niroshan Dickwella, the altercation they had? They just little nudged each other, and they were given 3 demerit points for that. I've seen Mitchell Starc throw the ball at the batsman several times. He's never got any demerit points for that. I remember recently in the Australia-Sri Lanka ODI series, Suranga Lakmal threw the ball at Aaron Finch, and he got a 15% fine and a demerit point for that. Similar incidents are being treated differently. Ben Stokes, how many times has he had some sort of crazy send-off, or he's sort of provoked someone, and he's never got any demerit points? For Kagiso Rabada to just say this once and to get demerit point, I think it's pretty clear what is going on here. It's very simple. The ICC is protecting its biggest assets. There's a conflict of interest going on here. Now, just think about this, right? Think about this. Who generates the most revenue for the ICC? It's the big three, through sponsors, TV deals, you name it. They generate a lot of revenue for the ICC. And the ICC treat them very, very nicely. They give them a lot of exceptions. The other teams who still provide revenue to the ICC, just not as much, the ICC seems to, I guess, show who's boss and really lay down markers against players of these teams. But they turn a blind eye to any player from the big three teams. It's very blatant, this disparity. There's a clear double standard, and Kagiso Rabada has fallen victim of this, and this is one of the reasons why it's very difficult to respect the ICC. Not only do they change the format of the World Cup, compromise the product in order to ensure as many India games as possible, there's a double standard in how they dish out demerit points according to breaches in the ICC Code of Conduct, and they also seem to not really have any intent to grow the game beyond its current borders. You don't see the ICC go to great lengths to help out associate nations. All these things, I find it very difficult to respect the ICC, but unfortunately Kagiso Rabada has fallen foul of this. I'm not saying that he did the right thing. I'm just calling for equal treatment. I'm saying if Mitchell Starc blatantly throws the ball at a batsman, if he gives the batsman a send-off using you-know-what as a phrase, give him demerit points as well. I'm just calling for equal treatment. I'm not saying that anything that these other players have done is good, just there needs to be some fairness, some equality to this. But Rabada obviously has been suspended. It's a huge blow for South Africa, and I love Kagiso Rabada. I love his passion, his energy that he bowls with. I'm going to be sad to miss him in this game, and it makes it all the more difficult for South Africa to rebound from that defeat in the first game. But now on to England. A few talking points for them. Moeen Ali. Is he the most underrated player in world cricket? Now, I think Moeen Ali is a bit of a joke for a lot of people in that I think he's defined by what he's not. He's always been asked to be the main spinner in the team, even though he's always been a batsman who bowls a little bit. Because of England's dearth of spin options, he's always been the spinner for them, at least at home. He's always been the spinner. And I think because he's never able to be a really quality spinner, to be an elite spinner at the international level, to be able to contain and take wickets as well, that people do ridicule him a bit. But people, I think for the most part, don't really look at his batting because he's almost not in the team for his batting. Remember in the 2015 Ashes, he was batting at 8. But he is a legitimate test number 6 or 7. He's batting at 7 at the moment. And I think that he is a very decent player. I'm not saying he's a world-class player. I just think he needs a bit more respect. That's all. When you have a look at his test career, he averages 35 with the bat. He's got 5 centuries. And since the start of last English summer, he has 400s to his name. That is very good. In the past year and a bit, he has 4 centuries in test cricket. That is great stuff from Moeen. He got a 10-fer in this match, obviously. Yes, the pitch helped the spinners immensely, but you still have to bowl on it. His bowling average is now down to 39, which is not great, obviously, but he did get to the 100-wicket club, and he was the 5th quickest, I believe, to the 2,000-run and 100-wicket club in Test cricket, the fastest of which is Shakib Al Hasan. But he is not the worst bowler. I think a lot of his wickets, to be fair, are the batsmen taking him lightly after facing Anderson, Broad, and Co. Where they've been peppered, they feel like Moeen Ali is the chance to get some runs, and you'll see them lose their wicket, throwing it away to Moeen Ali. That's a similar effect I see with Nathan Lyon, but I do have to say that Moeen does benefit from that, having a great fast bowling attack to work with. But he's not the worst bowler. He's slowly improving. Yes, particularly in Asia, if you want him to be a match winner, he's probably not that guy. But he's a serviceable spinner. He's a serviceable spinner, and he's a decent number 7. As an all-round cricketer, he's very handy to have in your team. England have so much flexibility because of Moeen Ali and Ben Stokes. They allow them to play Liam Dawson, who is a bits and pieces cricketer. Didn't get any runs in this game, and he did get a couple of wickets, but he's a defensive option. He's not a wicket taker at all. So England are basically capable of doing that because of Moeen and Stokes. But Moeen is certainly a very respectable cricketer, by no means world class, but deserves a bit more respect, I feel. He's also, I think, a great role model as a British Muslim, born and bred in Birmingham. I think it's really nice that there is a big Muslim community in England. It's nice that there is someone who seems like such a genuine guy as well there as a role model. So I think that's nice about it as well. And I believe that he is the most underrated cricketer in the world. And honestly, I would love to have him in the Sri Lankan team. But the second thing I want to talk about for England is a dream start for Joe Root and his captaincy career. He got 109. He was very lucky, I must say, dropped by Aiden Markram and JP Duminy before getting to 50. And then later on, Morne Morkel and Keshav Maharaj overstepping. Now, Keshav Maharaj overstepping the off spinner, that is criminal. It seemed like everything was going his way, but certainly Joe Root, as all great batsmen do, are going to make you pay. A brilliant 190, that was the difference between the two sides' first innings scores. Excellent stuff from Joe Root. Good to see him get a big score. That's something he needs to work on. I put him below Smith, Kohli, and Williamson in tests because of the fact that he doesn't convert enough of those 50s into hundreds. In the Tour of India, in the 5 test matches, he got a 50 in each of those games, but did not get 100. He didn't get 100 until the first game he got 100, but after that he did not get one. He got just 4 50s in the remaining 4 games. So he certainly needs to work on that. And if he can do that, then he'll go to the next level because he has 12 test hundreds and 27 50s. So he could definitely work on that, get that up to at least a 2-to-1 ratio. But it was a good start for him, certainly. I think it's difficult to judge his captaincy. He wasn't particularly challenged in this game, and I feel you can really only judge a captain in the field when he is under pressure. But all things seemed decent. I think he's a guy who can lead with the bat by example. So I see no reason to be perturbed about his captaincy after this game, but stiffer tests certainly do lie ahead. And that wraps it up for the first test match. South Africa have a lot of work to do going into the second match starting on Friday. They do welcome back Faf du Plessis to the team, but obviously Kagiso Rabada, big blow for them, will not be there. England must be feeling pretty nice about themselves. They do have a few players, though, who need to justify selection. Gary Ballance, Keaton Jennings, and Liam Dawson would be under some pressure. And that's the beauty of winning, though. Being in a winning team, I remember last summer that they were able to carry guys like James Vince and Gary Ballance despite numerous failings because they were winning. So that's what winning does. It allows you to have continuous selection, which is a good thing for the players, gives them a real good crack of the whip. So I don't think that any of them will get dropped for the next test, but certainly question marks for those few players, although I think England will be thinking they're in a very comfortable position going into that second game. And now we have quite a bit of news from the day, and I'm going to start off with a bombshell in Sri Lanka cricket, and that is that Angelo Matthews has stepped down as the captain in all formats with immediate effect. Yes, I talked about the captaincy situation in the last podcast, and already that has been decided. Matthews has decided to step down in all formats. That's what surprises me in all formats, because I'm looking at it and there aren't many options. The reason why I wanted Matthews to stay on was one, how much instability do you need? There's already the coaching situation, now the captaincy situation, so many off field issues. I haven't talked about it, but there's also the situation, a conspiracy theory with cricket managers in Sri Lanka. I'm not going to get myself too wrapped up in those type of things, but there are a lot of off field issues. That's what I'm trying to say. And really, they should be focusing on the on field problems, getting the team back to where it needs to be. I can't see this being a good thing, all this instability. The other thing I thought is that there's simply no clear option. There's no superior option, particularly in the test team. I really had wished he would have been at least captain of the test team, because what are the options? Rangana Herath is 39, Taranga and Chandimal are not guaranteed a place in the team even, and Kusal Mendis is 22. Let the man develop. What are the options? Who is the test captain? For me, whoever is named the test captain, it's going to be a problem, whether he's too old, too young, or not even a guaranteed selection. I am not a fan of that at all. It would appear that in the limited overs teams that Upul Taranga will be the captain. He has captained a lot recently while Matthews has been injured, so I expect him to be the captain. Again, he doesn't have a great record as such. His win-loss ratio is worse than Matthews, although he has had a much smaller sample size to captain with. But one thing's for sure, I don't see how Upul Taranga is an upgrade on Matthews. At best, I think he'll just be the same. And I feel like, once again, it's this whole chop and change mentality. What at the end of the day is this going to do for Sri Lanka? Is this going to make Sri Lanka the number one test team in the world? Of course not. Whatever this happens with the captaincy, it's not going to make much of a difference. If it's going to be a positive one, it's not going to mean a lot. There are deeper rooted issues, and it's the culture that these deeper rooted issues, like the structure, the first class structure, etc., are swept under the carpet. The politics, how the SLC is run, all that stuff is swept under the carpet, and they look at scapegoats, quick fixes, which doesn't work. And I feel like this is another step back for Sri Lanka. I'm not a fan of this. I can understand from Matthew's situation, he would have been under an awful lot of pressure, but I'm very disappointed that he wasn't at least captain of the test team. But it will be interesting to see who is named. They have to name the test captain very, very soon. I expect an announcement perhaps later today or tomorrow, because the test match is on Friday. This is what makes it more ludicrous. You've got a test match in 2 days' time, and you're going to name a captain less than 2 days before the game. It is a farcical state of affairs in Sri Lanka, and as I've said repeatedly on this podcast, the future does not look particularly bright. But on to some more news. Yesterday I talked about the Indian coaching situation. Well, again, that has also been resolved. As I said, as expected, Ravi Shastri is going to be the coach until the 2019 World Cup. But also, interestingly, Rahul Dravid is going to be the batting consultant, and Zaia Khan the bowling consultant, two vastly experienced world-class cricketers to give their knowledge to the Indian team. I see it as a good move for India. Obviously, I think Tom Moody was a good candidate for the job, but I think it was pretty clear that they wanted a homegrown coach, an Indian coach. So I don't see any great surprise in that. I expect things to be better. I think obviously Virat Kohli would appear to have a better relationship with Shastri than he did with Kumble. And their first assignment will be the Sri Lanka tour, which starts in a couple of weeks' time. But that is that for the Indian coaching situation. It is now done, and they can look ahead to that tour with great positivity, given how things have gone in the last few years. A feel-good story, I think. Afghanistan playing at Lords against the MCC. Unfortunately, the game was no result. The weather playing spoil sport, as it does quite often in England. MCC, they batted first. They got 210 for 5 in their 40 overs. It was nice to see guys like Brendan McCullum and Shiv Chanderpaul, two ex-greats of the game, suiting up for the MCC. Shapur Zadran, the left arm tear-away fast bowler, took 3 wickets for Afghanistan. Good to see him back. He's had a few injury problems recently. But unfortunately, Bangladesh, what am I talking about? Bangladesh, Afghanistan, sorry, they only got 5 overs to bat in the chase before the rain came and played spoil sport for them. But a great day. So many Afghanistan fans were there, and it was just a nice thing in cricket. All these problems in cricket, it's good to see something really to make the heart warm. Think about it. Afghanistan, 8 or 9 years ago, were playing in Division 3 of the ICC World Cricket League, and now they have ODI status. They're now a Test nation, playing at Lords. It's incredible, their rise, a meteoric rise. They're looking good. They're a team that now is a competitive team in the limited overs. They're able to beat the lower ranked teams already. Astronomical rise. They've got some great talents. Rashid Khan, I think, is a world class spinner in the making. They've really got a lot to offer Afghanistan. They again bring a lot of colour to the game. I love their passion for the game, and I really hope they can continue to thrive because cricket needs more of this. Cricket needs more of teams playing for more than just the game. It's about making their nation proud. It's about fulfilling lifelong dreams. It's about sticking it to the big boys. Beating the mighty and powerful bullies. That's what I love about these underdog stories. I really hope that Afghanistan can continue on the trend, the upward trajectory that they are on. Great stuff. Seeing them at Lords. The last thing of the day is a little bit of an update on the Australian cricket pay dispute saga. Yes, seemingly never ending, this one. We do have an update though. Incredibly, what do you know? Sponsorship issues for Cricket Australia. Wow, who saw that coming? I talked about this in great detail in episode 5 if you want to check that out, but I will get more to the point in this one, and that is the cricketers are Cricket Australia's biggest assets. Without the cricketers, you're diluting the product. Sponsors are not going to be willing to pay the big bucks when there's no product. There isn't a guaranteed product. It is a pretty obvious problem. I can't believe that no one saw this coming at Cricket Australia. The fact that even as little as a week ago, they've been searching for sponsors. Can you believe that? Cricket Australia searching for sponsors for the home summer. Unbelievable, the state of affairs. But it's so obvious. Your cricketers are what are making you revenue. If you freeze them out, well then you can kiss goodbye to that revenue. It's as simple as that. It is quite unbelievable to me, the state of Cricket Australia. More news on it. This is a quote from an Australian Cricketers Association spokesman. Have a listen to this, and I quote, "The ACA is in the process of securing a multi-million-dollar line of credit to support the unemployed players to counter attempts by Cricket Australia to starve them out. Major international financial institutions have shown strong interests in supporting the players at this difficult time. The ACA is fielding support from private individuals who are also willing to back this move." Well. Once again, as I said, the players have all the power. Cricket Australia, you are dependent on the players for revenue. The players, they have plenty of potential revenue streams. You have people lining up to support them. They can get sponsorships from elsewhere. They can play in domestic 2020 leagues around the world. It is unbelievable how Cricket Australia cannot come to a compromise. I congratulate the players for sticking by all the players, not just the big elite international players, but the domestic players as well, trying to give them that revenue sharing model. Cricket Australia at this point is being unbelievably greedy. They are in danger of losing their product. This revenue sharing model or fixed pay model, none of that matters if there are no players. You're not getting almost any of that revenue. Most of your revenue is down the gurgler if you don't get those players. I find it amazing what Cricket Australia are doing. You surely have to compromise and give the players this model that they're after, the revenue sharing model, because the players, they don't particularly have a pressing issue. They can do whatever they want. They'll have sponsorships from elsewhere. They can play elsewhere. You've got the Caribbean 2020 League coming up. Who knows, we might see guys like Steve Smith and David Warner turn out for that. They have supply. They have money. And I feel like in a lot of these issues, I always feel like it's reasonable to be pro player. Think about who's really the one who is driving the revenue. It's the players. And I feel like these money makers in Cricket Australia, they're benefiting from the great work of the players. So at least give them what they want. I find it quite bizarre how steadfast they are being in this. Cricket Australia doing themselves no favours, and the relationship is getting really damaged. But the good thing about this is that I was a bit worried about the domestic players, how they would suffer. Maybe they're not able to get the contracts that the big international players are, but hopefully this apparent multi-million multi-million dollar line of credit, hopefully that gives them a little bit of financial support during this time. But I'm just amazed by the situation. It's at an impasse. It appears that nothing's going to happen for a while. I have my big doubts over whether the Bangladesh tour would happen, which is very sad for cricket. But that is unfortunately the reality. Player power has changed the game. The players are in control. They don't have to buckle to Cricket Australia. And Cricket Australia, James Sutherland, come on, please. For the good of cricket, compromise. I'm begging you, because this is just getting uglier and uglier by the day. And I really hope that this does not create a real mark on cricket forever. I hope that this is just a flash in the pan, because it would be so sad if Australia didn't have a cricket team, one of the premier nations in cricket. Cricket, it isn't played by many countries. To lose one of its major nations, wow, that would be very depressing as a cricket fan. That wraps it up for today. Very interesting, a lot of news from today. And if you do enjoy the podcast, there are links to iTunes, SoundCloud, and YouTube. You can find the links to all of them on the Twitter page. Next podcast, I will be previewing the only test, Sri Lanka-Zimbabwe, the second test for England, South Africa. Be reviewing the 6th round of group games in the ICC Women's World Cup, as well as providing any news updates from the world of cricket. But that is it for today. As always, thanks for listening. I'll see you later.